Hey everybody, ModelMan here, and back with the refit. I really could have sworn I went with Duraluminum 102 on these guys, but clearly, as you can see, the difference is freaking striking. So it must have been the white aluminum and regular aluminum that had such a minimalist difference. So I had been thinking about keeping these just as were, but no, I'm gonna repaint it all. The proper colors, and I have to repaint it all as well again anyway. This surface was certainly a great test, and I'm glad for that aspect of it, but I do need to give it an entire another pass. I don't know how well it might be showing up here, but a lot of the panels are kind of cloudy. There's not a lot of stability, like right in here, for example. I think I've mentioned it in another video as well. And what that was a really good lesson for teaching me that you really need to do many passes. At least several passes to get it all properly good and going proper. See, like right in here, all of this is just yeah, there we go. So it really shows me that you really got to give it good coverage, and just when you think you're done, that doesn't mean you're done. For example, there's really good coverage up in this piece here, and even the bridge area as well, but once I got into all these checkers, essentially what I was doing, if I didn't catch it on video, was doing a square, moving over, doing another square, and just hopping around. Then I masked those off and did all the intervening squares. And in doing that, I kind of lost coverage everywhere, like this whole area. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. God, this Alclad is definitely freaking gorgeous. There's no denying that, that's for sure. I will be repainting that top bridge piece there. Then over here on the walls, this is alternating gold and gold titanium. Gold titanium pulls up, as you can see right there, and that's a natural effect of it. So right now, these wall panels are glued to the top, but the bottom is still loose. I haven't attached that yet because I'm having trouble getting this window piece in. It seems to just not want to fit the proper angles going on. Nor have I put in the observation deck, but I may just skip that. Down here, the bottom came out a lot better than the top as far as the cloudiness factor goes. However, down here on the bottom, especially on this aluminum panels here, the scratches are really prominent. But really, that just makes it look more like actual metal, doesn't it? Yeah. Looking at that, you just swear it was pure metal. Wow, that's gorgeous. But it also shows me that the paint is really all about the surface, and just because you think you've sanded it well, or may have sanded it well, once you put this Alclad on, you're really going to see how well you did. And you're probably going to be disillusioned, like I was. Maybe you won't be. Maybe you won't. But this definitely shows me it's all in the body finishing, and I'm going to be giving this a pass with several different grits. Yeah, this was basically a 400 or 600, and then I was like, yeah, good enough. But now I can see how not good enough that really is. The other thing I learned about the Alclads here is that once you've got it painted, do not touch it again. This finish here is pretty good, but essentially the finish isn't corroding or anything like that, but it's very delicate, even though you can put masking tape on it right away, seemingly. So there's something weird about it I haven't quite put my fingers on yet, but I will when we get there. And then in terms of the other pieces of this model, part of the development of the story of what's going on with this model, and you'll have to go back to the first episode of the video series for that. It's basically a stripped down destroyer that's being refit, and part of the story that's been developing as I build this for why it was refit is that because the buckling here in this it's not an old SCSI cable, but it's like an old parallel port for hard drives in the old days, the 40 pins. So it's a strip of that painted black, and as you can see, it's got a bit of buckling going on. So that made me think that perhaps the ship was in some kind of storm, and that buckled out whatever grills these are. I'm going to have to do a lot of research to get my terminology back. And so from here, I'm going to be putting like jet exhaust smoke damage around the area and maybe blow out this little guy right there. You can see those are pretty linear, so I might chunk those up. You can see there's a nice chunk out of that there. And then over here the sides were already kind of chunking up, so those work out well. What I don't want to do is repaint a lot of this, and if I do, I have to mask the windows because I redid the gold titanium here, and guess what? I forgot to mask the windows. The other thing I've been doing with this is that I initially cut the pod off of the engine here at the bottom, flip that around, and put it on the bottom of this neck to help blend it in stylistically. So what I've been doing over the last couple days is filling this with Ava's epoxy. And what I got to do right now, or next up on this build, is trim down that bottom just a little better, get it a little tighter, a little closer. There's a little fat in there to get rid of. Once that's done, I'll be able to get a much better fit on this. I'll put some wet Avas here and maybe some plastic wrap on this piece, press them together, get a mold of how they should fit, pull them apart, take the plastic wrap away, and then glue it into place. So for positioning, it will be going right at the very tip of that there, and you can see with this model, and you can see with this engine piece here, perhaps, that I do have a bit of seam filling that needs to be done still. I had thought I got rid of a lot of it like I did here, but no, there's still a really wicked seam going down it all. And speaking back to the Avas, this is the other place where I've been filling it back up. And I figure if I'm going to be repainting this anyway, then I may as well get a good base layer down, get this into shape, and then do the repaint after that. So there's still a little more work to do. Next up is probably sanding on this. Then finally, I do have this small bag of little pieces, and with the work bees here, their story is that they're going to be positioned around the body as if they're doing work. One of them is going to be spray painting a temporary number onto the front of the hull, for example, just to ID the hull visually when anyone else sees it. The back impulse to glue on. There's this shuttle that'll be attached to either the bridge or maybe the torpedo deck here on one of the sides. Part of the idea is that the ship is completely unpowered and depressurized because there's no one in it whatsoever, and they don't want some random asteroid hitting it and causing a hole and blowing out and doing more damage than would otherwise happen. So the crew for the moment arrives on this shuttle. They deploy to the work bees, start to work. By the end of day, they should have a habitat module in place, scheduled to arrive, and from there, a tug would bring in a dry dock to start working on this proper, along with offices and all the other supporting things that would be needed for a project like this. So it's being scheduled, essentially. It's in the pipeline. But right now, I'm actually going to take it out of my main pipeline and put this aside because this All of this is next going to be a lot of sanding, and I have a few other things I need to sand in the future, so I'm going to put that aside to go with it. And same for this guy and this guy as well. So 3 basic parts. It's going to be looking great. I think right now this is just a glimmer of a taste of how good the final will be. And if I went with proper Aztecing all over all of this with all the different color options, 5 different layers of colors going on, wow, wouldn't that be gorgeous? And that's the idea for when I do a full refit of this model. Forget bare white, I'm going to go with Alclads, and I bet it's going to be a shining jewel because learning on this is really going to help me out for that. So that's it for the refit for the moment. Thanks for watching. See ya. That could have been better. If I don't repaint this section, my idea is that a work bee will be fixing it. That is some of the white tile that would still be on that they're removing overall, if you follow me.